Well, today is a very special day. Well, at least for me, anyways. I've patiently, and to be honest, joyfully, provided you episode commentaries for dozens and dozens of Knight Rider episodes. This one you are listening to right now is number 60, if you can believe it. Wow! But what makes the commentary for 10 Wheel Trouble so important to me, you may ask? It's not because it's one of my favorite episodes, although as Knight Rider episodes go, it isn't bad at all. No, the reason 10 Wheel Trouble is special to me is because, finally, we debut the second screen-used kit car that we have in our collection. As you know, if you've watched previous commentaries, we also own the car that was referred to as the backup to the hero car in Season 1. At least that's what we called it. It was also used as the insert car in Season 2. Anyways, this second car, while officially debuting in this episode, is only featured really for a brief scene. But very, very soon, it'll be featured in one of the coolest scenes in the entire series. So cool, in fact, it makes it into the Season 4 opening credits. There's a little teaser for you. Even though this car was basically just another disposable, general-purpose stunt car, in my eyes, it's so special because I resurrected it from great disrepair and have made so many memories with it over the last decade. So, join me, shall you, as we dissect Season 3's 10 Wheel Trouble.
KITT caught in a killer convoy. Can Michael smoke out the murderer? Or is this haul his last? Next.
Production 58645, 10 Wheel Trouble. This episode was written by Burton Armus and directed by Bob Brawlver. It originally aired on NBC March 24th, 1985, which was a Sunday at 8 p.m. It was filmed from February 4th through the 11th of 1985, and it was the 60th episode to air, but the 62nd to be produced. The synopsis reads as follows. Michael must clear a trucker accused of cutting the brake lines on a truck and killing the man inside. Now, you'll notice that I just mentioned this episode was directed by Robert Brawlver, and Bob was the Season 1 stunt coordinator before Jack Gill took over. So Bob was very familiar with Knight Rider at this point. He also reappeared in Brother's Keeper, and I believe White Line Warriors he directed as well. But so he's kind of been peppered throughout the series after his more prominent role as the stunt coordinator in Season 1. We open here with Curtis coming into the truck stop, and a couple interesting things about this particular screenshot. So each one of these trucks was to have a very specific look, down to the exterior and interior colors of the vehicles. And I think they wanted it that way to be able to easily distinguish each one of them. Because as you can see, most of the trucks in this episode are GMC Astros. And they're not just any GMC Astros. This is actually these trucks belong to Universal Studios, their transportation fleet at the time. We went to Universal, what was that, 2012, 2013? 2014, somewhere around there. And believe it or not, they still had a couple of these GMC Astros on the lot. The same ones, they've been repainted, but it was the same ones that we see in these episodes. But we have some production notes that specifically say that, Curtis's truck needs to be, specifically it needs to be green and needs to have this stripe. The interior needs to be a certain color. The box or the trailer, if it has one, he doesn't have one here, but the Flynn truck needs to be a certain color, needs to have a certain logo. So, you think that when they're putting this together, they just grab these trucks off the lot and use them. But in reality, that's not the case. They wanted each one to look distinct. And, a lot of Universal Studios GMC Astros were this multi-toned red color, right? Similar to the Comtron trucks from the pilot. But so I could see why they wouldn't want them all painted the same. So that's why we see a green truck. We see, I think, a blue one, maybe a tan, different colors here and there. Yeah, see, we pan over and now we've got Curtis's truck back here, and we've got the red truck here and the tan with the stripes here, all GMC Astros, all part of Universal's fleet. And in case you're wondering, this location unfortunately no longer is there, but this is the old Castaic Junction restaurant, and out in Valencia area. I think at the time it was called the Blue Moon Cafe also. At least some of our production notes say it was called the Blue Moon Cafe. But unfortunately, none of this is still here. This has all been kind of redeveloped in this area. But I think this is the same place. Like the old road is where Carr approaches the semi to turbo boost into the back of him. They use it in Mouth of the Snake. Just a number of deadly maneuvers. It was used in tons of episodes here. But as you can see, this has all been kind of redeveloped. However, if we scroll over this way, take a look at this. I always thought this was neat. If we go over to this side, right where the restaurant used to be, and we zoom way, way in, you see this building right here? Does it look familiar to any of you? This is the location that was used in a number of Knight Rider episodes, in Night Moves for Cali Family Trucking, in Speed Demons for Kelly Travis's motorcycle repair shop. It was used in Hills of Fire. It was used in The Wrong Crowd. In fact, in The Wrong Crowd, the semi, when the hijacker stole the semi, it was hidden in a warehouse that was right here, which, as you can see, is now gone. But this was that mom and pop's cafe. So lots of history right here in this area of Southern California. And here we have Joe Flynn, played by Christopher McDonald, very accomplished actor, went on to appear in a number of hit movies and TV shows, and is still a well-respected actor today. But anyways, his hat that he has, this Lutz Corp, this is the exact same hat that we'll see in season 4 in Out of the Woods that Eric Whitby wears. See, there you go, wearing the same hat. So maybe they were both co-workers at this company in universe. All right, let's keep moving. And then we have James Cromwell, perhaps one of the most accomplished and successful actors. Now, currently, when we look at it current day, I mean, he's done a ton between his appearance here and present. He's an Emmy award-winning actor. And for you sci-fi geeks like me, he's Zephram Cochrane from Star Trek First Contact, who broke the warp barrier. Anyways, this is not Star Trek historian, so let's keep moving. This is supposed to be the inside of Gianetti's truck, and if you watch the episode, the outside of Gianetti's truck is this really old tractor trailer. It's actually stock footage that they use from another production. I don't know what production, and that's because it ends up, careening off a cliff and blowing up. They didn't want to have to destroy a semi-tractor and trailer specifically for this episode, so they just use stock footage. So really, when you see these insert shots are actually one of the GMCs, probably one of the GMC Astros would be my guess, the ones we saw earlier. At first, I was thinking that this could potentially be the inside of the screen-used GMC General that was used as the flag tractor, but it's not, because, well, it's sitting right outside, right? And I can tell that there's switches and different things on the dashboard that are not in the screenshot. So there you go. Chances are this is probably one of the GMC Astros. I think they had similar interiors. Those of you familiar with Astros versus GMC Generals, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I definitely know this is not the flag semi that they're using for this insert shot. So take a look at this. This is Gianetti right before he careens off the cliff. And once again, this insert shot is not the truck you see going off the cliff, but this insert shot is one of the, again, the GMC Astros or General. I think they pretty much had the same interior, if I'm not mistaken, but something I want you to note, a couple things I want you to note. Take a look at this piece of tape here, right? Okay, so we got a piece of tape here holding this wire in. This is the cable for the air horn. And then we've got what appears to be a window in the back, but it's covered by a curtain, a gray curtain. Now, why am I pointing this out to you? Well, you're going to notice throughout this entire episode, all of the insert shots, it doesn't matter who's driving, whether it's Burgers or Mama Flynn or Janetti here or Curtis, they use the same insert truck for all of those. They just change out a few things. Even for the flag semi, when you see the insert shots of the flag semi, that's not the inside of our actual GMC General. That's this same insert truck. So we're going to point that out as we go. But just pay attention. This insert truck, we look at this piece of tape. We've got the curtain, and then we've got the window in the back that's hidden. All right, keep moving. We now cut to Michael, stuck in traffic, and this is kind of an overhead shot. This is stock footage, but actually, just look at that. Doesn't that look like Magnum PI's Ferrari? It's not. I know. Anyways, they're both Universal Productions. It could be, right? It's not. Anyways, so the reason I have this screenshot up is because during this scene, you hear a voiceover from the radio of an announcer, and he says his name is Eugene Hansen. And that just happens to be the character name of Clu Gallagher in Buyout. The main protagonist in that episode is Gene Hansen. So nice little tie-in there. And that's actually not the only tie-in to Buyout. In fact, later in this episode, whenever Michael is driving the Flynn rig and Sally is calling him over the CB and says, your next stop is at Armor Built, which I thought, again, was a nice callback to Buyout as well. And it's even more interesting because those two episodes, Buyout and 10 Wheel Trouble, were not written by the same person. This episode was written by Burton Armus, who was also a producer on the show. So chances are when he took his turn at writing this episode, he was probably thinking, oh, it'd be cool to put in those Easter eggs, right? Before Easter eggs were really a thing in Hollywood and TV and movies, he put in those Easter eggs to a past episode, which is just really cool. So in order for Michael to get out of his traffic jam, he lets KITT drive, which he says is against all Foundation regulation and policies. But think of how many times we've seen KITT driving when it's not an emergency situation, right? Anyways, so Michael never cared in the past whenever that happened. But we see him raise his hands, and KITT then slides sideways, right? And viewers are left to assume that he turned his tires and was able to drive out sideways. Of course, we didn't see that. And of course, in reality, the car was on dollies and they pulled it sideways, and that's how that all worked. See, this is all you see, right? You see this scene, then you see the car starting to pull sideways. This is the hero car. We can still see it's got all this residue on the headliner, which we've talked about before, and the lower console is starting to sag, or the upper console is starting to sag just a little bit, but looks like it still covers the headliner there, and it looks like we have a screw here holding the front of it in. And still the hero car. Michael's now backing out of the semi, and just a neat little thing that we haven't really seen much of. So in the semi is broken down into two parts, right? You have the part where KITT parks, and then you have kind of this coffee area. And in between, there are these kind of clear translucent Venetian style blinds that open and close. And we saw those more prominently in a couple episodes in season 2, but we don't really see them too often. But if you take a real close look here, whenever Michael's backing out, you can see those blinds. See them right here? They're starting to close as Michael's backing out, which I just thought was a nice touch because most people would never notice through the windshield that they were doing this. But it was neat, a neat piece of continuity that they still have those Venetian blinds that open and close. Michael and KITT arrive at the Flynn house. A couple things to note here. First of all, take a look at KITT's stash. This is still the hero car, but this is one of the very few times in the series where we see KITT's voice modulator actually working in the hero car while KITT's talking, which I thought was a neat touch. And of course, it looks like a bunch of LEDs are out in the middle, but they were giving it an effort, which was really cool. And one other thing about the Knight Rider cars by this point that you may or may not have noticed. The taillights, right? This is a scene where Michael's pulling up and stopping with KITT, yet we don't see the taillights on. And this was a change that really happened between season 2 and season 3. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% consistent, but in season 1 and season 2, when KITT was coming to a stop, we'd always see his taillights on. But starting in season 3, we really are getting to the point where we don't see the taillights on. Now, one of two explanations for that. One, either the harness was cut when they were modifying these cars for the taillight and they just didn't work. Or two, the blackouts were not translucent, but they were solid black. I think the answer to this is in the first one, because if you look closely, I think there was something with the wiring, or they took the bulbs out or something. Or maybe they did it consciously because they thought KITT looked sleeker without taillights. But if you look real closely, you can see the ribs of the factory Trans Am taillights back here. So that tells me you can see through this. So I think they just either purposely or not purposely disconnected the bulbs. So again, the Flynn house. Where is this, you might ask? So believe it or not, this is at the Newhall Film Company out in the Pico Canyon area, which is where they filmed pretty much all of the, anytime you see KITT out in the middle of nowhere, for the most part, in the pilot when the police pull him over, when in Goliath Returns, when Michael and KITT face off and KITT falls off the cliff, all that stuff. Anytime you see KITT and Michael in the middle of nowhere, it's out here in Pico Canyon. This house is actually in Pico Canyon. It's called the Hyatt House. And there's no street view here, but if we go out here, so if we zoom out, you can see how desolate this area is right here. But this main Pico Canyon road is where, you want to be transported back in time to Knight Rider, you go to Pico Canyon. You can't. It's closed to the public. But if you were dropped on this road and looked around, you'd feel like you were dropped into 1980 something, and because it hasn't changed. But this is the house, right? It's still here today. You can even still see the fence, the white fence, right? This white fence right here that he's walking through is right here. That's all still intact. He pulls in, parks right here, and there's the two buildings that we see in the episode also. So again, 100% untouched from the way it was back then. And another rare instance, it's maybe not rare because we keep seeing it, where KITT's scanner's off later in the series. That's pretty much a no-no according to their writer's Bible. The scanner was always supposed to be on. And we see Michael tapping the telephone. This is the very first time we see the telephone tap button. In the fourth season, this is going to be renamed to just phone tap, which again was very rare to see. But here we see telephone tap, and apparently, Sally confronts him here as he's tapping the phones, deactivates. Michael deactivates the tap, and then when he goes back, he hits telephone monitor. So apparently there was a need to do two different buttons. I guess the tap was already in place, and he just had to start monitoring again. I don't know. And here's yet another GMC Astro that we haven't seen yet. Again, part of Universal's fleet. This one's painted a dark shades of blue, right? And this is Flynn's truck at this point. And here's what I was talking about earlier. Check out the insert shot. Look at that piece of tape. Exactly the same piece of tape right there. Different curtain in the back. There's still the window. All right. And then we see KITT skiing. This is, even though you can't see it, this is that stock nose KITT that we've talked about that made its first appearance in Night of the Drones, the season 3 premiere. But this is that KITT that had the stock Trans Am front nose with a scanner cut in. We saw it kind of throughout. We see it throughout season 3, and then it kind of disappears. But we know it's that car because it's the only car that had a whole mess of screws along the top of the blackout right there. Now, in this scene, you also see the front of a car skiing, and you see it does not have the stock nose. I actually believe that they might have filmed this twice with two different cars, because the car that they were skiing with was, when you see the front of it, where it has the KITT nose, is one of the T-top general purpose stunt cars for season 3, and we know it doesn't have all those screws in the back like that. So I think they actually filmed two different cars skiing for this scene. Here's Michael calling KITT, and if you take a look, once again, he is not wearing his normal radio comlink. This is just a generic stand-in watch, which is more common. Honestly, Hasselhoff didn't wear the comlink more than he did. So we're now at the sheriff's office, supposedly, right? And this is before Sally Flynn is dropped off, kicks KITT's tire and gets in. But if you look, this is actually a scene taken. Sally's already in the car right there, but she's not supposed to be. But this building is still here. It's the RM Piles Boys Camp on Henry Mayo Road in Valencia, right down the road from where the truck stop was in this episode, and where all this, what we talked about earlier, where all this stuff happens. This is on, like I said, Henry Mayo Road. Here's what it looks like today, which is pretty much identical to what it looked like back in the day. This building was used in a few episodes. It was used in The Wrong Crowd, where they robbed the bank. This was the bank. It was also used in Hills of Fire, prominently as well. And in 2018, a group of us were out in the area, so we went there. And obviously, that's me, but I wasn't paying attention to the camera. Obviously, there's AJ and our friend Dennis checking out this location on our way to the Dry Creek Bred from Kit versus Car. So I want to take a moment to share with you a cool production document we have for this episode. So they did this for every single episode, and here's just an example of it. We have this for a number of different episodes, but after a script was written, but before it went into production, there was a research team, this DeForest research, that would read the script and go through and make sure that there were no conflicts or no issues from a legality standpoint, from locations to characters' names and things like that. So take a look at this. So the research company found Phil Giannetti, no conflicts. Joe Flynn, the name is quite common. They did some research, don't consider it a conflict. Mike Curtis, again, not a conflict here. Edmund Clark right here. Because the trucking company name is not clear, a new name for this character is needed. Of the suggestions from Mr. Grimaldi, Gino Grimaldi, one of the producers, only the combination of Armis Trucking and Ed Armis is clear. Probably from Burton Armis, right, the producer. So, just neat that, you don't think about this whenever you watch the episode, but a lot of work goes in before they even start rolling the cameras on the episodes. So see, now Sally arrives, right? This is before, when Kit was just sitting there. She's clearly in the car. Now she arrives. And then she kicks Kit's tire, and then Kit lets her in. All right. Let's keep moving. Really great shot here of the dash in the hero car. And some of you guys have noticed this. There's a few subtle differences between the dash they have in the hero car and the insert dash that they put on a soundstage. The most prominent one are these LED bars right here. In the hero car, they're green. On the insert dash that sits on the soundstage, they're red. There's a few other little details, but that's a quick and easy way to always determine which dash you're looking at, for season 3 and season 4 at least. So now we have Michael driving the Flynn truck, and there's that tape again, right? There's the curtain, different color curtain, and you can even see a smudge right here on the speaker cover, which you'll see in future insert shots as well. And we can see Michael is still driving that same insert truck that we saw Giannetti in at the beginning of the episode. This is the exact same interior. Again, not the GMC General, unfortunately. And if you look in the distant background here, we've got a car carrier. This is one of the 2 Ford car carriers used to haul the Knight Rider cars and any other cars they need to the sets. And there it is parked right there. We see this. This is the same one we saw in the Ice Bandits, right? When Kit turbo boosts and lands on top of the car carrier. We saw it in Chariot of Gold. We see it peppered kind of throughout the series if you look close enough. We're back at the truck stop here, and you get a better look, and you can actually see the Castaic Junction restaurant sign right there. Another neat piece of continuity that doesn't necessarily have to be there, but it's cool, is this is the scene where Kit's self-driving behind Michael driving the Flynn rig, and Michael's talking to Kit, and it's actually a pretty neat scene. But when they were filming this insert shot, they didn't need to have Kit actually behind him self-driving and following him, right? This insert shot could have been done completely separate from the rest of the scene. But if you look in the mirror right there, there's Kit, and there's no driver in here. So just another little detail that makes all the difference to make this whole thing believable, right? And awesome scene. This is the right-hand blind drive car. Jack Gill is in the car driving, and who is it? Who's the stunt guy right there? Jack just posted about this not too long ago. Is it Mike Tillman? I don't remember, but jumping out of the car or out of the truck right there to land on Kit. Really well done stunt. This is the insert car, the season 3 insert car, and let's just take a look at a couple things here because there's a lot going on here. So Michael has just landed back in the car. We see still the overhead console is stuffed with these blue rags, and a viewer pointed this out to me, which I think I noted at the time I saw it, but I didn't put it all together. In Custom Made Killer, we see an insert shot of this car, and you can actually see water pouring down from the overhead console, which I thought was interesting, because my theory has always been, well, the reason they stuffed all these rags in was to keep water out of the car, because this was a hardtop car that they crudely cut into a T-top car. And by doing that, they made it completely not waterproof, so water would drip in. So this was their solution, to put these blue rags in. And the viewer correctly commented that, water's pouring in custom-made Killer in this one scene. And, that kind of ties it all together. So that's why you see the drips here. And it might actually be the reason why they switched to a new insert car in season 4, because this one was just all hacked up. And if you look back here at the B pillar, is this the B pillar? Yeah, the B pillar. You can see how ill-fitting the trim is. The headliner is just hanging down. It's just a mess, right? And just probably another reason why that this car would end up just being hacked up and turned into the Super Pursuit mode car. We also see this cable back here, which might be some kind of an audio cable for the inside. Not sure. And then we switch to this scene, and now this is no longer the right-hand blind drive car. This is now the hardtop stunt car. Okay, guys, the moment has finally come. This brief scene where you see Sally running out of KITT and Michael chasing after her. Not the scene where Sally's sitting in KITT and Michael's talking to her. Literally just this one scene. This is the premiere of our second Screen Use car. This is the exact same car you saw us in with Jay Leno in 2018 on Jay Leno's Garage. The car some of you've seen, we brought to shows, Zonka Marine America. This is its very first scene in the series. How do we know this is our car? Well, there's one huge thing that gives it away. Two huge things. First of all is the muffler, right? This is not a Trans Am muffler. This is a Firebird muffler. And our second Screen Use car is, in fact, a Firebird. It's one of only a couple that they had throughout the entire series. And at this point in the series, it was the only one they had, the only Firebird that they had. So this muffler gives it away, right? But we can also see, it's really hard to see. See, there's this bracket right here and one right here. One of the ways, our car is unique in many ways, but one of the ways it's unique are these brackets in the back. This is the only car that had these specific brackets in the back. So what are the brackets for? Well, they're used for chaining down the cars when they're on those car carriers we just talked about. And a lot of the cars, the factory cars, the rails back there have holes in them, and they would just run the hooks into those holes. Some of the cars they would add brackets to. Our car specifically, this one, had very, very specific and unique brackets added that were not added to any other car. So that's, between the muffler and those brackets, we know this 100% is our car. So at this point in the series now, we have two hardtop stunt cars, right? We have the one that premiered way back in season 1, and now this one. All right, so there's going to be a lot more to come about this car, especially in the coming episodes. We're going to see it in a much, much more prominent role, so you're not going to want to miss that. And check this out. So they're using the semi to haul produce, onions, whatever. And we actually were reached out to by a guy named George a couple months ago. And this whole thing was filmed at his parents' family's farm, packing shed, and office. And in fact, the produce boxes you see here are actually their family's brand. You can't read them because it's so far away, but it's actually their family's brand. And he said he got to meet Hasselhoff and KITT and took some pictures. He said it was just a fantastic experience. And we're still in contact with him, and we hope in the very near future we can maybe do an interview with him and share some of those photos once he digs them out. But just a really cool, neat connection, whenever you meet someone that was there during the filming. And I have absolutely nothing to say about this specific screenshot, except this is the absolute most beautiful shot of the flag semi that we ever see, in my opinion. Prove me wrong. You can't. It's the best. I love it. All right, so now we have this series of insert shots, and take a look. There's the tape. There's the smudge on the speaker, and we've got a light gray covering here. Then we move on. We got this guy. There's the tape. There's the smudge. Now it's a red curtain with, this is the holder for the curtain rod. And then we move ahead, and this is supposed to be the inside of the flag semi. There's the tape. No curtain because flag semi has a sleeper, so this was supposed to be the access to the sleeper. In reality, the sleeper was completely separate. There was no way to access the sleeper from the cab. And when she moves her head, you can even see the mount there for the rod, even though they didn't have a curtain on for this shot. And then we have this scene with the two sedans, heavily braced sedans right here with Curtis, and then Michael hits them. This, of course, is reused footage from a plush ride. But a couple things I wanted to point out. First of all, in the production notes for this episode, when they were filming it, they actually made note that they were going to insert the footage from a plush ride, which I thought was kind of neat. But obviously this scene right here with these two cars was filmed for 10 Wheel Trouble, right? We have the GMC Astro that Curtis drives from this episode. So we know this is not cut footage from a plush ride or whatever. This was filmed for 10 Wheel Trouble. And you can see the building in the background here. Well, then we cut to this scene. This is footage from a plush ride taken directly from the episode. And that building is over here. So not only did they go to the effort of getting two sedans that match the scene, they actually went back to the exact same location to film this. And these cars even have roll cages in them. I mean, they did an amazing job to be able to weave the new footage in with the old footage. And one more, here's the inside of the Curtis van, and there's the tape, there's the smudge, and there's this, it's like a gray tarp covering the window here. So the concrete truck pulls up. This is a miniature from Sessoms and Slagle. This is the same miniature Peterbilt that was used for Goliath in Goliath and Goliath Returns, and also in Mouth of the Snake. And you can see it still wears its Mouth of the Snake light blue paint job. And even though it's a Peterbilt here in miniature form, when we get to the full-size version, it's now, you guessed it, a GMC Astro. Yet another one, a silver one. And again, part of Universal Studios fleet. And then we're back to a miniature when the mini kit jumps through the mini cement truck. If you look in the background right here, there's the ramp that they set up. They put the car in the ramp and they pushed it off to crash through this fake cement truck. And here is one of only, I think, 2 appearances of the flag semi miniature. We saw it in Kit vs. Car when Car turbo boosts through the back of the semi, and we see it again here. I think this is the only 2 times we see it. This miniature is still alive and well and in a private collection. So now Kit's on the tail of Curtis, getting ready to turbo boost over him, and we can see a bunch of the crew members all set up back here in one of the crew vans. And one thing I failed to mention before we conclude this episode commentary, something I like to do in every episode, is how many Knight Rider cars we use in this episode. I was holding off until we premiered our car, and then I forgot. So here we're doing it at the end. There were 8 cars used in this episode. We have the Season 3 Hero car, the right-hand blind drive car, the hardtop stunt car, the the T-top general purpose stunt car, the left-hand blind drive car. We have our stunt car, the one that just premiered in this episode. We have the insert car for Season 3, and we have the stock nose kit doing the ski mode. So there you go. There's your 8. Okay, guys. Well, that wraps up 10 Wheel Trouble. I hope you enjoyed it. There's kind of a lot going on in this episode. I hope you found it interesting. So we are closing in on the end of Season 3. Next up is Night in Retreat. And then, Night Strike and Circus Nights, and we're done. Well, Season 3. We still have to do Season 4. So thanks for joining me on this journey. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon.